Ethan and Mia had been on again, off again sweethearts ever since their early teens. They'd fight over the tiniest things, break up, make up, and turn their social circle into captive spectators of their personal drama. Over time, their friends got tired of the whole soap opera and stopped paying attention to the couple's never-ending ups and downs. By ninth grade, Ethan decided to drop out of regular high school and enroll in a trade program, and that was the final straw. They split for good after that. They didn't see each other for a full 7 years, but of course Mia couldn't resist checking up on her ex through social media. She knew who he was dating, where he liked to hang out, and so on. At 22, both of them ended up celebrating their graduation at the same downtown club, and fate threw them back together. They fell for each other all over again, and within a year they both had wedding bands on their ring fingers and a tiny baby girl in a stroller. Life was so different from their teenage days. The constant arguments and jealousy seemed to be gone, replaced by a warm and loving household. They had a real family now, full of affection and trust during their marriage. Ethan worked his way up at his job, and he eventually convinced Mia not to go back to work after their daughter Annie turned 3. "Why bother, hun?" he'd say with a laugh. "It's so nice having you home." Mia was cool with that. She'd never been super career-focused, so being a stay-at-home wife and mom felt good. Meanwhile, Ethan was glad to come home to a cozy house, delicious meals, and a relaxed wife who didn't have to juggle a job on top of everything else. This setup worked great for 3 more years, until Annie started first grade. That's when everything changed. While waiting for Annie to finish school one day, Mia happened to meet Alex, the man who would become her lover. It all started in a random coffee shop, just a friendly chat that led to exchanging phone numbers. They kept meeting up at that same cafe, chatting for hours, until one day Alex invited her out for a real date at a fancy restaurant. Mia hesitated for days, wondering what excuse she could spin so Ethan wouldn't suspect anything. In the end, she pulled off a little show, pretending to get a phone call from a friend who'd just been dumped and desperately needed moral support. Ethan believed her that night after dinner. With Alex, he invited her on a scenic drive through the city. Eventually, they parked near the riverfront, overcome with emotion. Mia kissed him, and they ended up being intimate in his car right then and there. And so began Mia's double life. Most of the time, she was the beautiful wife and mom, but she'd carve out those small pockets of time to be Alex's passionate lover. She told herself this arrangement made her feel complete, like she could have her cake and eat it too. She had no idea the fantasy would come crashing down, leaving shards behind. She first noticed something off when Ethan pointed out that her chest seemed bigger. Mia brushed it off at first, but she spent a sleepless night worrying early. The next morning, she ran to the pharmacy for a pregnancy test, which confirmed her fears: 2 bright pink lines. Her stomach lurched as she realized she had no clue who the father might be. At a follow-up ultrasound, the doctor said it was far too late to safely terminate. Mia ended up crying in the hospital bathroom for what felt like forever. To make matters worse, by that point, her fling with Alex was going sour. He'd started borrowing money from her all the time, ducking out on paying her back, and she was even footing the bill at restaurants. She desperately hoped the baby was Ethan's, anything to avoid complicating her life further. Mia thought long and hard and decided to do the only thing that made sense: break it off with Alex, demand he repay the money he owed, and come clean to Ethan about the pregnancy. But Alex lashed out the second she told him she was ending things. "Oh, that's how it is," he snarled. "Either you keep paying me to keep my mouth shut, or your doting husband finds out about us." He waved his phone in her face, hinting at a folder full of incriminating photos and video. Mia felt cornered and agreed to his terms. She couldn't bear the thought of Ethan discovering her betrayal. Meanwhile, Ethan was thrilled by the news that Mia was pregnant again. He'd wanted a second child for a while, but never mentioned it, worried about timing. Now the universe had seemingly decided for them. Mia faked happiness, trying her best to share in his joy. Over the next 6 months, she secretly funneled money from her personal savings to Alex. That safety net she'd built up was vanishing at lightning speed, and her stress level soared. Ethan noticed how on edge she was, but chalked it up to hormones, and tried to shoulder even more responsibilities around the house so she could rest. In August, right before Annie started second grade, Ethan drove Mia to the hospital for the delivery. A few hours later, Mia texted him the good news: he was officially a dad again at work. Ethan locked his office door so he could cry tears of sheer happiness in private. Sadly, it didn't last Long 3 days later, while Mia was still at the hospital, Alex showed up at Ethan's workplace. The security guard buzzed. Ethan, saying someone he didn't recognize, was waiting in the lobby. Curious, Ethan went downstairs, only to face this complete stranger, who asked if they could speak in private once alone. Alex spilled everything he showed Ethan. Explicit photos of Mia in his bed, plus videos she'd recorded for Alex. Ethan felt physically ill, convinced he had to be dreaming. Meanwhile, Alex stood there, smirking. In a flash of fury, Ethan landed a punch so hard it sent Alex reeling. Against the wall, a scuffle broke out, and the security guard had to step in. When it came time to pick up Mia from the hospital, Ethan arrived wearing a hollow, heartbroken expression. Watching Mia's newborn son, he suddenly felt like he was looking at Alex's face. Mia already knew. Alex had confronted Ethan, and she had no idea what to say, or if there was even anything left to say. Both of them were drowning in their own pain. Ethan refused to live in doubt. He ordered a DNA test right away, bluntly telling Mia that their marriage depended on the result. He had no intention of raising another man's child. The test came back just as feared. Ethan was not the father. They divorced not long after. Even so, Ethan remained involved with his daughter, Annie, taking her on weekends so Mia could have a break. Alex never tried contacting Mia again. Thankfully, he also stopped sucking money out of her bank account. Mia still couldn't grasp how she'd failed to see the red flags in him, but there was no undoing the damage now. All she could do was figure out how to move forward after blowing up her own family, and just like that, 2 adults had their lives shattered by one unforgivable mistake rooted in nothing more than human stupidity.